so I'll know what.
Yeah, go ahead and scroll. So, I mean, I feel like we kind of did the bio. I'm Brooks. I'm a therapist and artist, visual artist and writer here in Jacksonville. Um, and I'm doing two of these. Both of them, I think, kind of have like a little bit of a therapeutic spin in that I think they're both incredibly helpful. I think sometimes, I think all the time, art and poetry is therapeutic, even if that's not your intention. But I think they can also be used a little more intentionally as a therapeutic device as well. And so both of the workshops that I'm teaching are kind of going to give you an option to be a little more intentional in how this can actually help me process through something um, in a way that maybe it wouldn't if I were to just kind of be like, "Bleh." I feel like a lot of times art and poetry therapeutically are just like it's a catharsis. It's just like a throwing up of whatever is inside just to get it somewhere, which is beautiful, but we can also do it a little more intentionally. And so that's kind of the perspective that I'm coming from in both my workshops. And so this one is personifying emotion, which I'm going to guess if you're all here, you have some sense of, poetic language and poetic device. But I'm just going to kind of go through pretty quickly because what I want you to have is time to play with this and then also some time to share if you're interested. And what I will say about sharing permission in the same way as I gave before to participate or not participate. I think the really cool thing about being willing to share is that everybody feels less alone in the end when they're sharing, because what you realize when you share with a group of people is that your feelings are the same as other people's feelings, and we're all just having this very human experience. And I would offer none of us are completely alone in whatever we're thinking and feeling. So I love sharing because of that. There's no pressure to share, but I also want to make sure you have time if you want. So, okay, personifying emotion. Let's go to the next slide. Okay, so we're starting with like what is emotion. So the kind of Webster's definition is that it's a natural, instinctive state of mind deriving from one's circumstances, mood, or relationship with other. Um, so unfortunately, we don't have a lot of control over this. If it's instinctive, if it's organic, emotion is going to naturally occur dependent on where we are, what we're doing, and who we're with. The point of an emotion is that it tells us something. So it's all a signal. A lot of people think about emotions as being good or bad. So generally we think, fear is bad, anxiety is bad. Sadness is bad. They kind of have this like very negative connotation because none of us like them because they are uncomfortable essentially. And then, happy, excited, surprised, we tend to go, oh, those are good emotions. I would offer the perspective that uncomfortable and comfortable is a much healthier way to think of emotions. So they're not good or bad. They either make me feel comfortable or they make me feel uncomfortable. But what they all are is a signal to us about something, whether something feels good, doesn't feel good. It's like a little alarm. Emotions are also energy, which means they require attention and movement. Um, and I don't mean movement necessarily physically, although a lot of times, if you think about feeling something, if I feel angry, I feel something in my body, right? That energy comes with like a somatic feeling. I get hot, my heart races, I might start clenching my teeth. Um, Sadness somatically tends to feel heavy. It feels tired. It feels low energy. Happiness tends to be like bouncy. I'm saying all of this to say There's an actual somatic energy in emotion. There's also a mental energy. What it makes me think of, kind of where my brain goes when these feelings come up. And so this is kind of like a very quick, encapsulated way of thinking about emotion. Does anybody have questions, comments, concerns, statements about this, just emotions conceptually? You can put them in the chat or you can say them. Yeah, go ahead, Nicole.
Well, I love reframing it as uncomfortable or comfortable. Like I've never thought of that way. And that also, having you say emotion is a signal. Um, that was really cool. Like, so thank you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, well, it gets, if we're framing our emotions as good or bad, it gets really squirrely really quickly. Because what happens when we think something is bad, um, then we feel like we're doing something wrong or that we should be doing something different. And so, for instance, if I frame sadness as being bad, I'm immediately I'm gonna push back from sadness. Oh, I shouldn't be feeling this isn't good, this says something about me. So then not only are we pushing away from the emotion that we probably need to be feeling, we're adding like guilt or shame or embarrassment about having the feeling to begin with. And you can see how quickly, that would stack and spiral. And it just becomes this really squirrely, messy thing versus sadness is really uncomfortable and I don't like to feel it, but it's telling me something. Um, what is it telling me and how do I move this energy, in a productive way? Yeah, emotions do drive behavior a lot of the time. And I would say too, um, in terms of creativity, and this isn't necessarily emotion related, but I feel like I'm probably in a room full of creatives. Creativity is absolutely energy. It is an energy in your body, it is an energy in your mind. And if you consider yourself to be a creator or a creative, creative energy tends to become very self-destructive if it's not exercised. If you're not using it, if you're not getting it out of the system, it does this like big eating away at tumultuous, like a fiery kind of energy, can be very destructive. And I think if you look at a lot of well-known, accomplished artists, writers, they're like two sides of a coin where it's like the one side is this like brilliant creative energy, and the other side is a lot of times a lot of those uncomfortable emotions. It's sadness, it's anxiety, it's anger. Um, because I'll probably die on the hill of like creative energy is an incredibly powerful force that it'll either be used for good or evil, you guys. So like keep creating, I guess is my point here. Okay, so we have emotion. Any other thoughts about emotions? I can't see everybody's face, so if you have your hand up and I don't see you, I good. Okay, we can move to the next slide. Okay, so my emotions, what are they even? This is another thing I find in my work. Like people, a lot of times, people don't even know what it is they're feeling. This is a learned thing. So, if you didn't grow up where someone was teaching you about emotions and emotional regulation and giving permission for all of that, it's very hard to understand it in adulthood. And so, something that I find really helpful for like anybody all the time is this emotion wheel. It's pretty common. You may have already seen it. I stole mine off the internet. I don't even know where it's from, the Junto Institute. I don't know what that is, but it's a great wheel, right? This is the one that we're all using all the time. So what you have is six, what are like the six quote unquote core emotions? You have fear, anger, sadness, surprise, joy, and love. And you can see they're kind of halved top with top is going to be more uncomfortable, bottom's going to be um, more comfortable. I think too, and I don't know if this is on purpose, but anybody who's experienced anxiety, so fear and surprise are they're right kind of diagonally adjacent to each other. And a lot of what happens in our body in fear is the same as what happens in surprise, which is why if you're an anxious person, a lot of times excitement is really uncomfortable for you because that body feeling is very similar. And it kind of does that actually around the whole wheel, those opposite adjacents. That's really neither here nor there. This is me just rambling in my therapy brain. Um, so we have the emotion wheel. So what I would love for you to do, because this is going to be part of the activity, is I would love for you to look at the wheel and just jot down a couple that are really familiar to you that you're like, yeah, despair, super know what that means and feels like. Whatever. And then some that maybe feel a little more obscure, a little less like something that you feel like you've had a lot of experience with. So maybe just do like three and three to give you some options. Three familiar, three less familiar. Give you guys a few minutes. Can everybody see the wheel okay? Good. Okay. I'll give you guys like another minute here. Some of these are really cool. I'm sure you've already noticed, but, and I probably should have said this already, but we start at the center with like the big core emotions, and then it just gets like, a little more obscure version of the same thing, and then a little more obscure. Obscure isn't the right word, but I think you probably get what I'm saying. Dude, like rapture. This is so interesting. Rapture being at like the border of love and joy. I don't know that I've ever thought of rapture as an emotion. Okay. All right. I think we can go to the next slide. Somebody yell if they need more time. See, it's your only chance to take yourself off mute. Do like a little yell. I can't see you. Okay. We can go to the next one. Personification. Again, you probably are familiar with this word if you're doing any kind of poetry or trying to learn about poetic devices, but personification is ultimately just the attribution of a personal nature or human characteristics to something non-human, or the representation of an abstract quality in human form. Um, so, well, go ahead and go to the next slide. Does this track with everybody? Is there anybody who's just like, wait, never heard this term before ever. So weird. No yelling, no yelling. Excellent. Okay, so let's go to the next one. I was going to give you some obscure example, but instead of doing that, let's just talk about the activity. So the goal of this activity is to personify an emotion. Um, so what I want you to think about when you're thinking of personification and an emotion is from the list of emotions that you picked. And I would say start with one that's really familiar to you because it's going to be much easier to personify if you have a felt sense of it. But what I want you to think about and probably start as kind of a brainstorming activity. So we're not going to start with trying to write something in poetic form. I want you to like, whether it's a list or you draw the circle and write the emotion in it and then do all the spindles. Um, Pick the emotion that's familiar to you and kind of list underneath it, thinking about what makes something human. What does it smell like? What does it look like? What kind of energy does it bring into a space? What is it wearing? Where does it live? Um, who are its friends? What does it say? So really just creating like a character, essentially. You know, if I was going to build this character, if sadness was a character, um, what would all of those attributes be? And so start with the brainstorming. We're not putting anything in poetic form. We're just starting to write down sadness smells like rain, wearing black, whatever that is for you. So I'm going to give you guys like we're gonna do, let me do like 5 minutes of brainstorming and I'm gonna set a timer so that I'm keeping track. And we can go a little longer if we need to. Got about a minute and a half. Anybody need a little bit more time with brainstorming? Oh, wait, there's new messages that I didn't see. No. Oh, elements of me. What does that mean, Nicole? Elements of me. Nicole said describing anxiety, and I'm just listing elements of me. I'm curious.
Yeah. So I was writing that it's slurping coffee and jittering and breathing into a bag and pacing. With a million tabs open, it's easily distracted. And then I'm like, oh, this is me.
Mhm. Yeah. Mm, a little telling, perhaps.
Hmm.
Um, you do know that caffeine perpetuates anxiety. Okay, just
Oh,
checking.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And just
I
making
know.
sure. Just making sure you knew that it's a stimulant and that's what it
I
does. Okay.
do.
Okay, cool, cool, cool.
But I love
Um,
it. It's
yeah,
my
no,
only
same, same,
my only vice.
same. Okay, I don't even know what my next slide is. Can you go down, Erica? This might actually kind of be the last relevant one. Yeah, yeah. Okay, we can go back up. So I didn't know if I had like another bit in there. So you've done your brainstorming. I am curious, is anybody willing to just kind of like share um a brainstorm, or if you brainstormed more than one? I'm, like I said, just always curious what comes up.
I'm happy to share.
Cool.
I chose hopeful,
Mm.
and I said hopeful is yellow and it wears clean clothes and flosses its teeth every day and wears makeup when it feels like it. It uses lists to cross it out on time, has plans and small steps. It dreams happy dreams and wakes up refreshed. If it's and it is tired from the day of accomplishment.
All right. You almost, that's a little bit poetic already in form, the way that you wrote that out. Yeah, I flosses its teeth. I love that so much. That's so specific. And that's kind of the fun too. I'm sure you can guess, but my next challenge for you is going to be to take what you've brainstormed and kind of move it into a more poetic form or a narrative that's a little more storytelling. Put that put that personified emotion in a situation, in a room, in the room with you. Um, you know, Nicole, you said you're describing yourself, and so maybe the challenge for you is to actually make it something other than. So what are the elements of anxiety that aren't you, and make it, put it in the corner of the room instead of making it feel like it's just so right here. Um, but so that's kind of what I want you guys to spend the next 10 minutes or so doing, is trying to get it in more of a poetic form. And if that feels weird or hard, again, permission to just kind of play around with the brainstorming around a number of different emotions. There's no, I'm not keeping track of who's doing what. Does that track? Does everybody get, we understand the assignment? Nobody's yelling no. I'm going to assume yes. I'm going to set a timer for 10 minutes and be like, have fun and be specific. Like the flossing is a great example of specificity. Also thinking like, what city, what town, what country would I be in if I were encountering this emotion? And just go as specific as you can, because ultimately this activity, what it is it's really reflective of your own thoughts about certain feelings. So have fun, be specific, 10 minutes. Feel free to unmute yourself and ask a question you need to. Does anybody else need a few more minutes? Can do like another 2 minutes. You guys want 2 more minutes? Yeah, we got one yes. Okay, I'm gonna put 2 minutes on the clock. Okay. All right. Let me make sure that I didn't miss just people. Oh. Let's see. Okay, there's one over here. But I do want to give the opportunity. We have 10 minutes left. As I said, I'm always going to say please share if you're willing to share because I think it's helpful for everybody, self and others. So is there anybody who's willing to read? I see Nicole immediately. Like I said, I can't see everybody, but Nicole, if you want to go ahead and start us off.
Okay, hope I can read it. I mean, my writing. It's messy. I ran into anxiety at the grocery store in the produce aisle looking for green grapes. We bumped elbows, but anxiety couldn't be bothered to apologize. If I'm truthful, I smelled anxiety before we collided, and it was the beautiful scent of an October rain in Minneapolis, ankle deep in dried, but now soggy leaves, with flames from a wood burning fire licking my nostrils. Anxiety outside of me was a comfortable blanket to hug my shoulders while listening to the grandfather clock chime as stars sipped the sky and sparkled with regret of the wishes they could not grant. Anxiety was so wrapped up with worry, checking its list, and box breathing, hoping no one would notice. Most folks don't. Their faces sucked into their screens. They wouldn't know anxiety if it bit their toes, gnawing for attention. Anxiety can do that sometimes. I inhale and watch anxiety pace the aisles, not knowing what it needs. And I wondered if I braced my arms around the thin flannel shirt of anxiety, would it just not melt away and I exhale?
Mm,
Thank you.
yeah, thank you for sharing that. I love I smelled it before I saw it. And I'm watching it pace, not knowing what it needs. Mm, thank you.
Mhm.
Anybody else want to read? I saw, let me see. Yeah, I saw the posted. Am I gonna? Um, okay, I'm gonna butcher this name and I'm so sorry. The Shulamit, am I saying that right? I'm wondering if you're willing to read out
Shulamit.
loud
Sure.
Shulamit. Thank you.
Let me just find it.
And then Shell, I think I'm saying that right, but if I'm not, you can go next. I see your hand.
This is a beginning. I caper before the ark, before the crowd, before the divine. Cape flung, ermine rising, a blur of purple, white luxury tipped black, robe twirling slowly, undulating, in pirouette, arms outstretched, spreading waves set others spinning, gather in light and love, share devotion, immerse, immerse and dwell in my ecstasy.
Dude, isn't that so much better when it's read out loud than when you have to read it? Listen, I love reading poetry, but there's nothing I love more than hearing the poet read. So thank you for being willing to do that. Also, this is beautiful. Undulating and pirouette. Okay, shell.
If you ever
Oh,
have a chance to see the dervishes, then take it.
oh wow.
Yeah.
Should
Shell, are
I,
you ready?
okay, assuming I can read my horrible handwriting. Um, this is more character sketch than poem. Anger wears a black leather jacket and motorcycle boots and painted jeans. She chews gum loudly and whistles in the dark. She has scars she will never let the world see. She wears heavy armor, chainmail and plate, and a Kevlar vest. She carries a sword in her belt and a pistol in a hidden shoulder holster. She doesn't walk, she marches, head forever on a swivel. She's my personal Secret Service agent, following me everywhere, reading the room, assessing threats, and keeping things safe. But oh, she is tired. She wants a vacation, but knows if she deserts her post, bad things can happen. So she stays, quiet, in the background, forever on guard. She's the champion of underdogs, the one who doesn't take any crap, and a worshiper at the altar of justice. A lot of people look at her with fear or disgust because women aren't supposed to be angry, they think. But I see a loyal friend.
Hmm. Anger is female. Huh? I love that. I love the anger is female. She's also strapped. She is strapped. And you mentioned her as like quiet in the background, but I imagine the picture that you painted, like there's nothing quiet about that character. So that's an interesting juxtaposition that might not have been on purpose, but
Not when she's needed, but when
yeah,
she's on guard, she's quiet.
yeah. Very cool. Thank you so much for sharing. I see Hannah's hand.
Okay. Mine is frustration. Um, and it's not really a poem, but it's kind of more narrative right now. But it says, frustration wakes up after sleeping through her alarm, her only motivation to get up being the fact she's already late. She wears uneven eyeliner and an expensive perfume that smells sweet on others but sour on her. She has a popcorn kernel from last night stuck between her molars, and she's just run out of floss. She huffs and rolls her eyes, tongue lurching around, trying to excavate the kernel out. It resides, scratching at her gum like sand on skin. She skips coffee for lack of time. She only notices the pebble in her shoe once she is jogging to her car. She knows she's forgotten something and prays it's not important as she takes off for work. She feels time moving the whole drive. Of course, she's catching every red light. Of course, there's a car ahead of her going too slow, and no, she can't safely pass them. She wonders who she should vent to at the office, go to Anger's desks or Calm's. She decides neither. Anger will overreact, and Calm will not react enough.
Mm, thank you. I actually, if you hadn't told me this was frustration, I might have guessed it was sadness, and I might have guessed it was loneliness too.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, very, very cool. You guys, you did understand the assignment. This is really cool. I really appreciate the sharing and the commentary and the hyping each other up in the chat. Nicole, you're like everybody's biggest fan. I love that about you. You always have something like kind to say. So yeah, so you get the point. I think again, therapeutically and intentionally, it when you do this with an emotion, it helps you understand how your feelings are affecting you, and it takes them outside of you and makes them into a whole other thing. And I think that can be really beautiful and really helpful, especially if you play around with some of the more comfortable emotions. If you can do what you did here, for joy or self-compassion, it kind of creates a narrative that can replace a very critical one, which we all tend to have some version of. But anyways, that's all I'll say about it. Thank you all so very much for coming. Um, I think my information is on that last slide in the way of like just like therapy stuff. I am a practicing therapist here in Florida, so feel free to screenshot my information if you have, friends or family who are looking for mental health help. I'm also I tend to kind of be around in all of the creative places as best as I can. I try to go to open mics, and there's a lot of really cool art stuff happening in Jacksonville. There's a great creative scene here. So I highly encourage you, if you tend to be creating in a vacuum, to step out of your comfort zone and go to some stuff and meet some other creative people. It's a really beautiful community in the city. So. That's all I'm going to say. I'm sure Erica has a few things. Thank you guys so much for coming.
Thank you so much. Hope at hand, I can't hear anything you're saying. I think you're muted.
Oh, thank you. I was saying thank you guys for showing up for us today. Thank you, Brooke. Brooke does have another workshop coming up in a couple of weeks, but check out our schedule. We would love to have your feedback if you all would be willing to do that. We actually even have a contest that you'd enter this year for providing feedback. And then another thing we have new is our closing ceremony. If you'd love to share, some of the work that you all have done throughout this month, please join us on Sunday, April 26th from 11 to 2. And unless there's anything else, you all have a beautiful day.
Bye. Thank you. Thank you, Brooks.